Hi everyone, happy Friday. And speaking of happiness, I want to continue what I was talking about earlier this week about how to address seasonal affective disorder, the winter blues, however that might present. And just to recap of what I said earlier this week, yes, it's so important for like mom to feel, mentally and emotionally healthy, because when we are feeling better, we're going to be able to parent better. And when our cup is full, it's more likely that our children's cup will be full, because as I've said, our children are only as healthy as we are, generally speaking. However, keep in mind that kids can have seasonal affective disorder as well, and it might present differently. You might just think their behavior is worse, that they're more moody, they're just generally more anxious. And, if they're already struggling with these issues, it's easy to just say, they've had an uptick in these behaviors. So last time I talked about the importance of light therapy and the sun, vitamin D, particularly supplementing with it if you're in one of the colder climates, as well as omega-3s. And today I want to talk about other solutions that go a little bit deeper. That is number 4 is zinc. So zinc is another supplement like omega-3s and other supplements. It's very important for neurotransmitter production. And again, you don't have to take zinc in the form of a supplement. Obviously, you can get it through food, though many of us are deficient in it. Signs that you're deficient is if you have little white spots on your fingernails, if you have little cracks in the corner of your mouth. Those are all signs that you have potentially, your child has a deficiency in zinc. But again, you don't want to use that as your only way of judging that. So zinc manufactures neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. So serotonin makes us feel good. Dopamine helps us feel motivated, among other things. So very, very important. And the thing is, guys, is during cold and flu season, COVID, all of that stuff, our zinc levels are going to be become more depleted. Our body's going to be using it up to fight off different infections or things that aren't even an infection. They're just seeing it and like getting on top of it right away. And just an aside that with COVID, zinc was found to be extremely deficient in most patients. So definitely something you want to make sure you're getting enough of this year. And keep in mind, stress depletes zinc. And a lot of us right now are stressed. I don't know anyone who's like saying, yeah, I've never been more relaxed, right? It doesn't matter if you've gone, you're not really affected as much by what's going on in the world. It is a stressful time. Stress depletes zinc, which is why when we're stressed, we're more vulnerable to illness. But it also why it can create a vicious cycle with depression and anxiety, because if our zinc becomes depleted, then we are compromising our serotonin production, which is what tends to produce those feelings of, happiness and joy and so forth. Also interesting is that when zinc is low, or that it was found that whenever zinc is low, we end up with poor adrenal function, and adrenals are very, very important to manage stress. And we often think of this with adults, right? We think it's not something kids get, that we think, we hear burnout, nervous exhaustion, nervous breakdown. That's an adrenal crash. And if you've ever had that, it is not just tired. It is like, I've been there, and it is absolutely insanely awful. And kids can have poor adrenal function. There are many, many kids who have issues with temper tantrums, meltdowns, fits of rage, feeling over emotional, anxious, and they have poor adrenal function, and they don't ever get checked for that, or they rarely get checked for that. And when we start addressing adrenal function in some of these kids, all of a sudden the moodiness, the anxiety, all of that type of stuff starts to improve. And obviously, if you've been following me for a while, you'll never hear me say it's just a quick fix, but it's definitely one of those pieces of the puzzle that so often gets overlooked. The other factor so the other thing I want to talk about today is exercise. And I know we hear this all the time, so I'm not going to nag you about it, but just keep in mind that what was found at a recent Harvard study, a 2005 Harvard study, is that a daily 35-minute walk, just 35 minutes, helps to improve symptoms of mild to moderate depression. And that a 35-minute walk is equivalent to, it produces the same amount of serotonin as a medium, as a low dose to medium antidepressant. So what they basically found is that if you're feeling down, getting some exercise is one of the best things you can do before going to the medication as your next step. And then I always say, yes, exercise is great. Exercise outside is even better, because just being out in nature, being out in the fresh air. And then a 1996 study found that the bright lights, or even just being outdoors on a cloudier day, had much better results. Hearing those nature sounds, being outdoors has been shown to significantly lower our stress levels and so forth. It lowers our blood pressure, our cortisol levels. Just 15 minutes in the forest, and they found that blood pressure and cortisol levels were significantly reduced. So if you are anywhere near nature or can get near nature, drive to a trail, that is like honestly one of the best things you can do for you and your child, specifically during the winter months. And just to add to that, they did studies with children in schoolyards. And what they found is that the children who were in schoolyards with lots of nature compared to children who were maybe in inner city schoolyards where there was just nothing but pavement actually had significantly lower stress levels. So if this doesn't convince you to get outside, get outdoors with your kids on a regular basis, I don't know what will. Okay, and then last thing I want to talk about today is supplements. So supplements is not something that I feel that we over supplement in some ways as a society, but they can definitely be helpful with certain issues and can be a really nice alternative to jumping to the medication. So favorite supplements I have for anxiety, depression, all of that type of stuff are supplements like zinc, cholinate, B6, iron, magnesium, vitamin D, and omega-3s. And they are very helpful in helping to produce the neurotransmitters that we need. Keep in mind, gut health is important too, because our gut bacteria manufactures those neurotransmitters as well, or many of them, I should say. But I have some supplements that are very specific. And they are not so much vitamins and minerals like I've just mentioned, and more specific to being amino acids and so forth that are really, really good for anxiety and depression, and have the studies, the research shows phenomenal results with them. So I'm just going to name a few. I really like L-theanine and GABA for anxiety. GABA, a lot of people have really good results with ADHD. And I had a client who was like having terrible insomnia, weeks on end. She was beginning to feel like she was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and she was taking GABA, I think, for 3 nights. And she emailed me and said, "Oh my goodness, I'm in love. Thank you so much. I love you." I finally slept 3 nights straight. So those two can be really good for anxiety. Tryptophan is another one that can be good for mood and anxiety and so forth. And then there's another one called SAM-E. So it's capital SAM and then a small E. It's a combination, and it's a really good supplement as well. So keep in mind, if you are on antidepressants, too much serotonin production can be a bad thing. So please do not start supplementing with L-theanine and GABA if you're already on antidepressants and you haven't talked to your natural healthcare provider and so forth. So the answer, or the key, everyone, is nourishment. I talked last time about the importance of really eating that healthy food, because if we have a strong nervous system, our adrenals and our nervous system is going to be a lot more resilient to stress, to these crazy times we're living in, and to just in general to the winters that so many of us are not ones that we particularly enjoy this time of year. Light exposure, exercise, rest. So if you're just watching this or hopping on, check out my video. I think I posted it on Wednesday in my Facebook group, Building Better Brains, as well as my page, and find out what my first 3 tips were. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great weekend, and try out some of these things. Let me know in the group how they went or what you do to help beat the winter blues. Thanks for watching.